Welcome back to Esther's Legacy, for we are here for such a time as this. I want to dive into chapter 7 today of Revelation, and we're not going to get very far. As I was preparing this lesson, I went all the way through chapter 8, verse 5, and then as I was preparing to give the lesson today, I realized there's just so much in all of this that if I were to go that far today, we'd be here for quite a while. So today we're only going to go through verse 8. So let's read verses 1 through 8 of chapter 7. And we're going to dive in. There's a whole lot here, more than I was expecting there to be here. So I'm excited about this lesson. So let's begin to read, okay? After this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, so that no wind would blow on the land, on the sea, or on any tree. I saw another angel coming up from the east with a seal from the living God, and he shouted to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm the land and the sea. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. I heard how many were sealed. 144,000 from every tribe of the people of Israel. From the tribe of Judah, 12,000 were sealed. From the tribe of Reuben, 12,000. From the tribe of Gad, 12,000. From the tribe of Asher, 12,000. From the tribe of Naphtali, 12,000. From the tribe of Manasseh, 12,000. From the tribe of Simeon, 12,000. From the tribe of Levi, 12,000. From the tribe of Issachar, 12,000. From the tribe of Zebulun, 12,000. From the tribe of Joseph, 12,000. And from the tribe of Benjamin, 12,000. Now, in that list of the 144,000, the tribe of Levi is included. The tribe of Ephraim is called the tribe of Joseph. And there is one tribe missing, which is typical when a list of the 12 tribes are given. Because many times, for example, Levi might be left out because they're the priestly tribe. There's one list actually where Simeon is left out. This time, the one who's left out is Dan. And as we go through this lesson today, I'm going to give an explanation for why that might be the case, as to why Dan was left out. And it has to do, in some sense, with the meaning of his name, which means judge. Okay, so let's go back to verse 1 and let's begin. After this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth. All right, we're going to talk about that idea of the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 directions, north, south, east, west, the 4 corners of the earth, okay? Many people, unfortunately, today take that idea of 4 corners and say the earth is flat. No, it just means the 4 directions of north, south, east, and west, okay? It's not giving a statement about the shape of the earth. The scriptures actually call the earth a sphere. So we should not be surprised when from space we can see that we live on a sphere. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 11 as we begin to talk about the 4 corners of the earth. Isaiah chapter 11. And I want to read chapter 11 and 12. 12 is very short. It's only 6 verses, and 11 and 16. So let's read these verses. But a branch will emerge from the trunk of Jesse. A shoot will grow from his roots. We've read some of these verses already in previous lessons. The spirit of Adonai will rest on him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and power, the spirit of knowledge and fearing Adonai. He will be inspired by fearing Adonai. He will not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear, but he will judge the impoverished justly. He will decide fairly from the humble of the land. He will strike the land with a rod from his mouth, and slay the wicked with a breath from his lips. Justice will be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the sash around his hips. The wolf will live with the lamb, the leopard lie down with the kid, calf, young lion, and fattened lamb together, with a little child to lead them. Cow and bear will feed together, the young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. An infant will play on the cobra's hole. A toddler put his hand in a viper's nest. They will not hurt or destroy anywhere on my holy mountain, for the earth will be as full of the knowledge of Adonai as water covering the sea. On that day, the root of Jesse, which stands as a banner for the peoples. And who is the root of Jesse? It is Yeshua. And he will stand as a banner for the peoples, plural, for the nations, for all peoples, okay? For the peoples. The nations will seek him out, and the place where he rests will be glorious. And of course, the place where he rests is the place of his throne. And where is that? Jerusalem, at the temple. And that place will be glorious. On that day, Adonai will raise his hand again, a second time, to reclaim the remnant of his people who remain from Asher, Egypt, Pathros, Ethiopia, Elam, Shinar, Hamat, and the islands of the sea. He will hoist a banner for the nations, assemble the dispersed of Israel, and gather the scattered of Judah. From where? From the four corners of the earth. Ephraim's jealousy will cease. Those who harass Judah will be cut off. Ephraim will stop envying Judah, and Judah will stop provoking Ephraim. They will swoop down on the flank of the Philistines to the west. Together they will pillage the people to the east. They will put out their hand over Edom and Moab, and the people of Ammon will obey them. Adonai will dry up the gulf of the Egyptian sea. He will shake his hand over the Euphrates River to bring a scorching wind, dividing into 7 streams and enabling people to cross dry shod. There will be a highway for the remnant of his people who are still left from Asher, just as there was for Israel when he came out from the land of Egypt. Chapter 12. On that day you will say, I thank you, Adonai, because although you were angry at me, your anger is now turned away, and you are comforting me. See, God is my salvation. God is my Yeshua. God is my salvation. I am confident and unafraid, for Adonai is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation, my Yeshua, my salvation. Then you will joyfully draw water from the springs of salvation, from the springs of Yeshua. Talk about that in a minute. Then you will joyfully draw water from the springs of salvation. On that day you will say, give thanks to Adonai. Call on his name. Make his deeds known among the peoples. Declare how exalted is his name. Sing to Adonai, for he has triumphed. This is being made known throughout the earth. Shout and sing for joy, you who live in Zion, for the Holy One of Israel is with you in his greatness. So that we see that once again, there will be a time when God gathers his people a second time. This greater Exodus, the second Exodus, he's going to gather his people from the four corners of the earth. And of course, notice here where it talks about Ephraim's jealousy will cease, right? And those who provoke Judah will stop, and Judah will stop provoking Ephraim, and Ephraim will stop envying Judah. The brothers will live together. There will be no more strife between brothers. No more strife between the brothers. That's very important because they're gathered from the four corners of the earth, and the angels are standing at the four corners of the earth, back in Revelation chapter 7, and they're holding back the four winds of the earth so that no wind would blow on the land, on the sea, or any tree. Okay, so let's talk about the four winds. Okay, so the four corners, God is going to gather his people from the four corners. There's not going to be any strife between Ephraim and Judah, or Joseph and Judah. Let's turn to Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 36. And we're going to see an example of what the four winds do. 49:36 says this: I will bring against Elam the four winds from the four quarters of the sky, or from the four corners of the earth, from the four quarters of the sky, and scatter them to all those winds. There will not be one nation to which the dispersed of Elam will not come. So here we have God using the four winds to scatter Elam. He's scattering, using the four winds. You understand that? So he's going to gather his people from the four corners, but it's the four winds that scatter. Okay? Now let's look at Matthew chapter 24. Matthew chapter 24. Let's look at verse 31. He, Yeshua, will send out his angels with a great shofar. And this is interesting too, because of course we're fixing to go, chapter 8 goes into the shofars. Okay, and we have angels standing at the four corners, right? So he will send out his angels with a great shofar, and they will gather together his chosen people from the four winds. So from the four corners and from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So he is rescuing them from the fact that the winds, the four winds, took them in the four directions of the earth, the four corners of the earth. Now we're going to go a little deeper. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 37. Ezekiel chapter 37. This is the chapter of the dry bones, and it is the chapter of the two sticks. Okay, let's look specifically for a moment at verse 9. Verse 9 says this: Next he said to me, prophesy to the breath. Prophesy, Son of Man, say to the breath that Adonai Elohim says, come from the four winds, breath, and breathe on these slain so that they can live. Okay, this is Ezekiel prophesying over those dry bones to the four winds to send breath. Okay, so it's interesting that the same word for breath is the same word in Hebrew, ruach, for wind and spirit. So breath, wind, and spirit all go back to the same Hebrew word, ruach. Okay? So come from the four winds. Come from the four winds, breath, and breathe on these slain. Okay? The four winds had scattered. The four winds, there's even been death. But now he's calling on those four winds to give life, breath to his people. So I prophesied, this is verse 10, as ordered, and the breath came into them, and they were alive. They stood up on their feet, a huge army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel, and they are saying, our bones have dried up. Our hope is gone, and we are completely cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them that Adonai Elohim says, my people, I will open your graves and make you get up out of your graves, the resurrection. And I will bring your graves, I will bring you into the land of Israel. I'm sorry, went to the wrong line. I will bring you into the land of Israel, and then you will know that I am Adonai. When I have opened your graves and made you get up out of your graves, my people, I will put my spirit, my ruach, my breath, my wind, my ruach, my spirit in you, and you will be alive. Then I will place you in your own land, and you will know that I, Adonai, have spoken, and that I have done it, says Adonai. So there's the regathering of his people, and the regathering his people from the four winds also includes the four winds giving them back breath and him placing his spirit even in the dead. So it includes the resurrection of the dead. So his regathering, this greater exodus, includes all of those who are his. And then he says, the word of Adonai came to me. You, Son of man, take one stick and write on it for Judah, and those joined to him among the people of Israel. So the tribes associated with Judah. Next, take another stick and write on it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel who are joined to him, the tribes associated with the northern kingdom. Finally, bring them together into one stick. What did we read in Isaiah? that Ephraim's jealousy and envy would stop, and that Judah would stop provoking Ephraim. And we talked about that there would be no more strife between the two. Verse 18. When your people ask you what this means, tell them that Adonai Elohim says this: I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim. So Ephraim was the head tribe of the northern kingdom, together with the tribes of Israel who are joined to him, and put them together with the stick of Judah to make them a single stick, a single people, so that they become one in my hand. The sticks on which you write are to be in your hand as they watch. Then say to them that Adonai Elohim says, I will take the people of Israel from among the nations where they have gone, and gather them from every side, and bring them back to their own land. I will make them one nation in the land, on the mountains of Israel, and one king will be king for them all. They will no longer be two nations, and they will never again be divided into two kingdoms. And those two kingdoms, God had separated those two kingdoms. Okay? God was the one who gave the northern kingdom to Jeroboam. Jeroboam didn't just take that for himself. God gave him the northern kingdom. And he's saying, at this point, when I gather my people back to myself, when the resurrection takes place, Israel will be one people. They will live together under the one king, Messiah. We know Messiah is Yeshua. So here they are under Messiah, the root of Jesse. The root of Jesse. They will never again defile themselves with their idols, their detestable things, or any of their transgressions, but I will save them from all the places where they have been living and sinning, and I will cleanse them, so that they will be my people, and I will be their God. My servant David will be king over them. The Messiah, the son of David, king over them, and all of them will have one shepherd. They will live by my rules and keep and observe my regulations. Torah will go out from Zion, across the earth, right? They will live by his regulations. They will live in the land I gave to Jacob, my servant, where your ancestors lived, and they will live there, their children and their grandchildren forever. They will never be thrown out again. They'll be there forever. Why? Because the kingdom of their king is an everlasting kingdom that will never be destroyed. And David, my servant, will be their leader forever. I will make a covenant of peace with them, an everlasting covenant. I will give to them increase their numbers and set my sanctuary among them. And we know from other passages that the increase of the numbers even come from the nations. Because when they return, we follow. The nations follow. They take hold of the tzitzit of a Jew as in Zechariah 8 and say, let us go with you, for we've heard the Lord is with you. He's on his throne. We want to go with you. My home will be with them, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. The nations will know that I am Adonai. Remember that banner in Isaiah was also a banner for the peoples, and nations would seek him out. I am Adonai, who sets Israel apart as holy, when my sanctuary is with them forever. But they are gathered from the four corners. The four winds have to give them up, because the four winds scattered them. The four winds are called on to give them breath. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. We've been there many times so far. We're going to go earlier than we normally are in Daniel chapter 7. We're going to read verse 2. I had a vision at night, and I saw there before me the four winds of the sky breaking out over the great sea. And the four huge animals came up out of the sea. Four animals of the vision come up out of the sea. But who is churning up the sea? Who is over the great sea, churning it up, bringing out these four creatures? It's the four winds. It's the four winds. Which is very interesting, considering where we're going in just a moment. And actually, right now, let's go to Zechariah chapter 6. Zechariah chapter 6. I want to start in verse 1. Again I raised my eyes, and I saw in front of me four chariots coming out from between two mountains. And the mountains were mountains of bronze. And the first chariot had red horses, the second chariot black horses, the third chariot white horses, and the fourth chariot spotted gray horses or a pale horse. Does that sound familiar? Do those horses sound familiar? Those were the first ones to go out with the seals that Yeshua broke. There's four of them. Verse 4. I asked the angel speaking with me, "What are these, my Lord?" And the angel answered, "These are the four winds of the sky that go out after presenting themselves before the Lord of all the land." And they're coming. Okay, so the four horses, the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, the pale horse, are the four winds. So the four winds are associated with the four horses. And the four horses scatter. The four winds scatter. And he will what? Gather his people from the four corners of the earth, that the four winds have scattered over the four corners of the earth. Okay? Verse 6. The one with the black horse is going out toward the land in the north. And it could be going out toward the land, or it could be from the land of the north. Okay? That word could go either way there. So keep that in mind as I continue to read. The white horses have gone out after them, and the spotted have gone out toward the land in the south, or from the south. This is something we're going to come back to when we study those 4 horses, when we study those seals that are broken. Okay? Then the gray ones went out and were seeking to go and wander through the whole earth. The gray ones, the pale ones, are death, right? From plague, death. When he said, wander throughout the whole earth, and they did wander throughout the whole earth, and then he called out to me and said, look, the ones going to the land in the north have given my spirit rest in the north country. So he was fighting in the north, and now they're coming from the north, and so up in the north he has rest. Okay? And we saw that kind of idea even when we read Daniel chapter 10, when Yeshua with his army is fighting the prince of Persia, right? And he has Michael come and take his place for a time while he comes and talks to Daniel. So there's been fighting there, okay? But we see those 4 horses are the 4 winds. So these 4 winds, these 4 horses, are being held back by these 4 angels who are standing at the 4 corners of the earth. From the north, from the south, from the east, from the west. Those 4 corners we just read about in Zechariah. Okay? What is very interesting in Scripture, land means land, sea means sea, tree means trees. Yes. But they are also symbolic of certain things. The land is symbolic for the land of Israel. The sea is symbolic of the nation. So the land and the people of Israel. The sea, the land, and people of the nations. Trees are symbolic of people. Of people. And what do the 4 winds, the 4 horses affect? They affect people. They affect Israel, and they affect the nations. And the people in Israel and the nations. So here, and because we're also about to talk about people, the 144,000 and the great multitude, here it seems to be the symbolic meaning. It may mean literally land, sea, and trees, which when we get to the shofars, that is the case. But it is also symbolic of the land, the nations, and the people. Okay? So keep that in mind. In verse 2, verse 1, they're holding back the 4 winds of the earth so that no wind should blow on the land, on the sea, or on the trees, on anything or anyone. Verse 2, I saw another angel coming up from the east with a seal from the living God, and he shouted to the 4 angels who have been given power to harm the land and the sea, literally and figuratively. Do not harm the land or sea or the trees until I have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. So you don't harm anything or anyone until the people of God have been sealed. Now, the word seal there is the word in Strong's. It is G 4972, G4972, Suffragio, okay? And it means, this is interesting. This is interesting. It means to seal, to hide, to keep in silence, or to keep secret. And is he not going to keep some hidden away? Isn't he? Isn't he going to keep some secret from the things going on the earth? They are sealed. It also, however, it also means they are sealed in order to prove, confirm, or attest a thing. To confirm one is authentic or is what he professes to be. And so, in other words, they are being tested to see if their faith is genuine. We saw that idea in Daniel chapter 11, right? When even some of the ones that have discernment are tested and fall and they receive some help, right? They're there to teach the others. That could very well be who these 144,000 are those who have discernment from Daniel chapter 11. We know that Peter talks about our faith being tested, refined as pure gold. We've talked about that before. But both of those ideas, being sealed, being kept secret, being hidden, that's there. But also the idea of being tried and proven is there in this idea of sealed. So keep that in mind. Some might be sealed to completely escape and be hidden. Some might be sealed to prove their faith genuine, even in the midst of the trial. Just because they're going through the trial does not mean they're not sealed. Okay? Because that trial is to prove the faith of the one sealed. Now, I want to go to Ezekiel chapter 9 because the scene of sealing his people is very reminiscent of Ezekiel chapter 9. So let's read this chapter. Then he cried loudly, right to my ears, summon the commanders of the city, each holding his weapon of destruction. At once 6 men approached on the path from the upper gate to the north, each man holding his weapon of destruction. And among them was a man clothed in linen, with a scribe's writing equipment at his waist. So here he is with this writing equipment. They entered and stood by the bronze altar. So this sealing takes place by the bronze altar. Remember, we have talked about where we are in the temple complex. We've seen the sea. Here we're seeing the bronze altar. We've already seen the bronze altar in the 7 seals. That is where the souls of those who have died are at. They're under the altar. That's the bronze altar. There has been some debate over the years, is that the bronze altar or the golden altar? It's the bronze altar, I believe, because we have not yet moved into the inner sanctuary where the gold altar is. That actually happens in chapter 8. Okay? So that would be the bronze altar. So we're still in the inner courtyard. Verse 3 of Ezekiel 9. And then the glory of God, the God of Israel, was made to go up over the cherub where it had been to the threshold of the house. This is God leaving his sanctuary. Ezekiel is getting a vision of him leaving because of everything that's happening that is evil in his sanctuary and in his city. He called to the man clothed in linen, who had the scribe's writing equipment at his waist. Adonai said to him, "Go throughout the city, through all Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who are sighing and crying over all the disgusting practices that are being committed in it." To the others I heard him say, "Go through the city after him and strike. Don't let your eye spare, have no pity. Kill old men, young men, girls, little children, women, slaughter them all. But don't go near anyone with the mark. Begin at my sanctuary." They began with the leaders in front of the house, and then he said to them, "Defile the house, fill the courtyards with corpses, get going." So they went out, spreading death in the city. And while the killing was going on, I was left alone. I fell on my face, cried, and said, "Oh, Adonai Elohim, in pouring out your fury on Jerusalem, you are going to destroy everyone left in Israel." And then he said to me, "The wickedness of the house of Israel and Judah is enormous. The land is full of blood, and the city is full of justice denied." He's giving judgment. "Because they say, 'Adonai has left the land.' Adonai doesn't see. But as far as I am concerned, my eye will not spare, and I will have no pity, but I will bring the consequences of their ways on their own heads." At this point, the man clothed in linen with the writing equipment at his waist returned and reported, "I have done everything you ordered me to do." This angel who is there sealing the people, marking the people who are true to their God. And as we study the 144,000 in a later lesson, because he's going to come back to the 144,000 and talk about them more in depth, we will see that that is who the 144,000 are. They are those who are faithful to their God, to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In Ezekiel chapter 9, he is marking those who mourn over the evil that they see in the sanctuary and in the city, the evil that is in the land, the idolatry that is there. And they mourn. Today, as I am recording this, it is the 17th of Tammuz. It is the day that the walls of Jerusalem were breached. And of course, the destruction of the temples are remembered on the 9th of Av in 3 weeks. That destruction of Jerusalem, of the walls of Jerusalem, and of the temple, it occurred because of the sins of the people. And those who were being marked were those who mourned at seeing that evil, who didn't want that evil in the land that God had given them, that idolatry did not belong there. The 144,000 are being sealed, to keep from the judgment that is coming from the four winds upon the land, the sea, and the trees. They're being sealed because they are true to their God. And if they are true to their God, that also means they are mourning over the evil they are seeing in his sanctuary and in his city and in his land. And they hold true to their God. And the book of Revelation talks about the evil that will be in the city. The trampling of the temple court by the nations. Do we mourn today over the evil we see in this world, in our land, in our country, wherever we may be? Do we mourn over the evil that has even affected the land of Israel and the people of God? Do we mourn? Are we worthy to receive a mark? Are we worthy to receive a seal because we are mourning over the evil that we see? Are we crying out to God for his mercy? His mercy in the midst of his judgment. His judgment that this book of Revelation talks about that's coming. I hope and pray that the things we see going on in our world disgust us, take us to our knees in prayer, because God will not hold back the four winds forever. There is judgment coming. There is another scattering coming. Yes, in the end, he will regather. He will regather his remnant. He will regather his people. The resurrection will take place, and we will be with him forever. And we will be his people, and he will be our God. But before that time comes, many of us, most of us, will have to go through the trial to prove our faith genuine. Will we be able to stand in that day? Have we set our hearts to stand? Have we examined ourselves so that we can stand in that day? Because scripture says that in that day, not Daniel, Job, Noah, they're not going to be able to save anyone else. None of us are going to be able to save any of the ones we love, because we all have to give an account for ourselves. We all have to examine ourselves. We all have to ourselves be able to stand by his word. As we go through these lessons, we will talk about that as well. To stand in his word, to live in the power of his spirit, and to hold on to our testimony of Yeshua in our lives. We all have to be prepared to do that. And we cannot rely on someone else's faith to get us through. So here we have the sealing on the forehead. In Ezekiel, it was a mark. It is believed to have been the tav, marking them with a tav. And in this day, it was the paleo tav. And the paleo tav looked like a lowercase t in English, or in essence, a cross. He was putting a cross on their foreheads. He was marking them as his. He was putting the tav, the mark, the sign that they are his and true to him. And here we have the 144,000 being sealed as proof that they are his. And that seal, it may be a mark, it may be a tav, it may be the way they live, because it's put on their forehead. And that comes, does not that idea of something being on the forehead come from the Shema itself in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4? Shema Israel, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad. And then we have the V'ahavta, verse 5. Right? Verse 4 was, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Verse 5, "And you are to love the Lord your God, Adonai your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength." These words, which I am ordering you today, are to be on your heart, and you are to teach them carefully to your children, because they're going to have to stand. They're going to have to be able to stand. And you are to talk about them when you sit in your house, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. In other words, all the time. There should not be a time that goes by, an incident that goes by. And we should all examine ourselves. Have we done this? I know I haven't. Not like I should. We should always be teaching these things to our children. Tie them as a sign on your hand, and let them be as frontlets between your eyes on your forehead. And write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So there's that seal on the forehead. And that, of course, is in Jewish tradition and how they take this literally, and they put the tefillin, and they put or what is also called the phylactery, on their forehead. They put it on their arm, and they put it on their forehead. And part of the blessing for the tefillin on the forehead is that God would give them wisdom and understanding of Him. Those who have discernment, those who are wise, who understand, who have discernment, will teach others. So these are being marked on their forehead. Are they being marked? Do they have on the tefillin? Is there another mark involved? Or is it their way of life? Is it the tefillin? Either way, the angel is sealing them. He is sealing them from protection, for protection of the four winds, whether it is to be hidden from the four winds or whether it is to be able to endure, even unto death, the four winds. And I heard how many were sealed. 144 from every tribe of the people of Israel. In the inner court, we have seen, of course, the throne is all the way actually in the Holy of Holies. We have seen the throne. We have seen the four living creatures at the base of the throne. We have seen the 24 elders who we've talked about representing the court of the priests. We've seen the myriads of angels. These 144,000. Who did they represent? 12,000 from every tribe. So the same number from every tribe. Magnified. Right? I believe you can make a case that these 144,000 are those who stand in the court of Israel. In the court of Israel in the temple, there would be 2 from every tribe. So an equal number from every tribe, representing the tribes of Israel. But God's temple is large. And yes, these 144,000 are still on earth at this point. But God's temple is large. His court of Israel is much bigger and can hold a lot more than 24 people. 24 men. 2 from every tribe. I believe this could very well be God's court of Israel. It makes sense. Dan is missing. Because once you get to this point, there is no more jealousy or envy of Ephraim. There is no more strife between brothers. Judah isn't causing issues with Ephraim, with Joseph. The 2 sticks are coming together. God is giving judgment. But the brothers aren't judging each other anymore. They're coming together. They're preparing to truly be one under one king. And even though judgment may begin at the house of God, and even though God in this book is giving his judgment, the people of God are coming together. And between brothers, no more judgment. And it will end with God's judgment being no more. So we're coming into a time of no judgment. That is why I believe Dan is not mentioned here. Because of what his name means. Judge. God is judging. God is judge. The people are coming together. There's no reason for the people to judge each other anymore. They're coming together. They are his, and he is sealing them for his purpose. That is all I have today. I hope it is a blessing to you. I hope you have a good 2 weeks. We will not be meeting next week. Okay? We will not be meeting next week. So in 2 weeks, we will be moving on in Revelation chapter 7. Continue with Ezekiel for your homework. Stop at chapter 37. Don't go on to 38 and 39 yet, okay, and beyond. So just go through chapter 37 of Ezekiel, study it out, and I hope that it's a blessing to you. It is a blueprint, very much so. So come back 2 weeks. Those at Restoration, Lord willing, see you on Shabbat. For everyone else, and for those at Restoration, Shalom.